Hey, I'm Chris. I am new to Mesh, just joined a couple weeks ago. Also new to New York City. Just moved down here from Provincetown, Massachusetts. So hello to everyone. I am a sort of a full-time volunteer for NYC Mesh as part of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. And so my presentation today is going to be on AmeriCorps VISTA and NYC Mesh, sort of trying to give you guys a sense of what the VISTA program is all about. And then sort of at the end of it, sort of bring to you guys some, hopefully we can sort of brainstorm together and kick around sort of what some of the specific projects that I can be working on, along with my colleague Ugo, who's another AmeriCorps VISTA member. So we are dedicated full time for the next year. And so think of some ideas as we're going through this, like projects that we can be working on specifically, and we can sort of kick those around at the end of this. But shouldn't take too long. So this presenter mode is not quite working very well, so we'll just go from here. So AmeriCorps is a big federal agency. It was started, so it was officially begun under the Clinton administration. It pulled together some programs that pre-existed the Clinton administration, including VISTA, which is the program that I'm part of. But he brought them sort of all in-house as part of AmeriCorps in the early 90s and gave them sort of a new patina. So the focus of the agency is on environment. So it's all on volunteering, right? So there's actually, it sort of coordinates volunteerism at the federal level. And it has a focus on environment, public safety, health, and homeland security are sort of the areas of focus for AmeriCorps. So over the course of the year, they say that they connect 70,000 Americans, in doing volunteerism through AmeriCorps. Now that can be something as simple as participating in like an MLK Day. They do a big push around MLK Day every year. They also have some summer programs that they do, and then they also have a couple VISTA and a couple other annual sort of year-long programs, including a relatively new program that's focusing on seniors and getting seniors involved in volunteering. So it's like AmeriCorps Seniors. So the basic mission of AmeriCorps, as you can see here, is to improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement through service and volunteering. Next year. So the VISTA program is actually one of the first AmeriCorps programs that was ever started before AmeriCorps even existed. It was conceived of by John F. Kennedy Jr. He was president, and then put into service as part of Lyndon Johnson's Economic Opportunities Act in '65, I guess. So the program was conceived as a domestic corollary to the Peace Corps. So people know about the Peace Corps, doing a year of service abroad, working for organizations all over the world, spreading peace, prosperity. So it's the domestic version of that, right? So people sign up, we do a year here in the United States, working with organizations that have a poverty alleviation focus. So the whole point of the program is to really get at the sort of like the drivers of poverty, alleviating poverty in American communities. So initially, the program also, as part of this, gets additional support through the Domestic Volunteer and Service Act in the 70s, and then they focus the VISTA program on 3 specific primary objectives, right? So this is kind of important for Mesh. There's been some sort of like thinking about sort of like what do VISTAs do? Like what are we here for? The 3 objectives for the program are encouraging volunteer service at the local level, right? Generating and sort of improving the commitment of private sector resources, so like galvanizing private sector resources for the organizations that we're working with, and then strengthening local agencies and organizations that are serving low-income communities. So there's approximately 5,000 VISTA members currently serving, and it's sort of like they start on a rolling basis. So I think twice a month, they start new VISTA projects, or new VISTA members at various projects around the country. And there's about 5,000 of us currently. There's 900 projects that they have going throughout the country right now. And yeah, so the big focus for VISTA, there we go, is on capacity building, right? So the idea is that we're volunteers with the organizations that we serve. We do receive a living stipend from the government, so we're paid at the poverty level in each particular location. In New York City, if you're wondering right now, that's $29,000 annually. And so we're here volunteering. So basically the idea is that like people are giving a year of their lives to do service in their communities. The jobs that VISTAs they're partnered with organizations. Sometimes it could be a city agency, it could be a community college, it could be a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 like NYC Mesh. But the idea is they're always with nonprofits or local agencies, and we're doing jobs that are focused on, and we are seen as volunteers for those organizations, right? So there's no financial relationship between the VISTA members and the organizations that they serve, right? So we're volunteers here, full-time volunteers, right? So we are expected to work 40 hours a week in a full-time capacity for the year. We have a supervisor within the organization that sort of helps us sort of orient us and do an onboarding process. We are doing professional type work, but we're not doing like what they call direct services, is like this differentiation, right? So the example the example that I've been using that was told to me was this idea that think of like an administrative assistant or a secretary in an office. That person is out for a day, they're out sick for the day, they call in. Of course, the VISTA can step in. We can, man the phones for the day. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations are pretty low and leanly staffed, so people just need bootstrapping. But if that same administrative assistant is out for maternity leave, it would not be appropriate for a VISTA to step in and cover the desk for that extended period of time, or that would be considered like a direct service or something like that. So I think the idea really here is that they didn't want VISTAs to be undercutting the job market or taking people's jobs. That the idea is that they come in, work with an organization for a year, improve the capacity of that organization, and then leave whatever projects they've been working on behind to be then taken on as by the organization by either figuring out some other way to staff those projects, right? If they're seen as beneficial to the organization. So the projects are really focusing on things like scaling, efficiency, effectiveness. Those are all sort of buzzwords that they like to throw out for capacity building and the focus of projects. Some examples that they give, so developing like a resource directory for an organization. I worked with an organization in Provincetown doing some VISTA as a VISTA, and the VISTAs one of them had developed a volunteer awards program. So it was a organization that called Helping Our Women. So they were working with women who were had chronic diseases, were ill, needed a lot of support with their health care, right? So they were driving, it was an organization that coordinated volunteers to drive women to get to doctor's appointments, to help with health advocacy, and helping them if they needed, needed food or stipends, needed some money to cover medical bills that they were running into, that sort of stuff. It was like a human services agency, and there was a lot of volunteers. So the VISTA developed an awards program that like highlighted some of the work that like extraordinary volunteers were doing. And it was great because it was something that actually galvanized more people to get involved and to do more, right? And so that was seen as a really great program. Other things are, doing outreach initiatives, building partnerships is a big one that they love, really like to see, connecting organizations that have mutual sort of interests that could, help each other. We have some ideas for Mesh, some of those organizations here. Or doing something like creating like life skills classes, like creating classes or educational initiatives that can then be continued after, or sort of piloted and then continued after the VISTA were to leave. I think the idea of piloting is like a big thing that is, something that can really be, where VISTAs can really be beneficial. If people have ideas about something like tabling, for instance, I know there's been like a lot of discussion here about like how effective is tabling, in what circumstances is tabling effective. Like, we can go out and like figure that out for you. We can like go to different, like if people have an idea that like doing it in a certain location or at certain times or in certain ways is beneficial versus the others, like we can be your pilot, like we can go and like figure that out. Like when do people actually come and show up, under what circumstances, and then so that, moving forward, you guys have a better sense of like how to more effectively utilize your resources to be more efficient and effective, right? So yeah, there's that. So this just is like an example of, what we, as VISTAs, what's provided. The reason I'm sharing this is that, so anyways, what we get is there's a living allowance. It's now up to $29,000. It changes, there's like a little cost of the living every year. You get paid 10 days sick leave, you get personal time. There's some professional development. You also get, this is if anyone's interested in VISTA or knows people who are interested in VISTA, this is why I'm presenting this. We actually have 2 openings too for Mesh. Is you get, at the end of the year, you can choose between education award, which is like if you have loans, outstanding student loans, they will forgive, I think it's like just under $10,000 worth of your loans at the end of the year, which for some of us who did master's programs barely gets there a little bit, but it's something. And or you can get a cash award, which is less than that. It's like a couple $1,000s, but and then you also if you have loans, they're deferred and you can have forbearance and everything, so you're not actually expected to like pay back loans while you're doing your year of service. And yeah, so that's important because there are a couple positions open currently. Mesh has been approved for 5 positions with VISTA. We have 2. Ugo, I don't know if any people might know Ugo, is my colleague. She's unfortunately not able to be here tonight. But she started in August of 2023 for a year. I started just in March. We both are focusing on community outreach. So, working not in technical positions. Neither of us are technically minded currently. So my personal background is in the social sciences. I was anthropology undergrad, and then I did a public policy master's program focusing on security issues like terrorism, non-proliferation kind of stuff, and then did in ABD. So I did the first 2/3 of a PhD in global studies, so political science and international relations. So a lot of the more technical stuff is not here, but I also I worked for a very long time, or about 8 years, doing strategic communications for public health and public diplomacy projects in the Middle East. So I did a lot of work for the US government trying to sell some of the work we did with women's empowerment and stuff in Saudi Arabia and other places. So thinking through those, so that's my strategic communications background. So there's Ugo, myself. We have another position that's open, could start as early as May 2024. And then there's, as far as my understanding is, there's 2 positions that are more technically minded as well that are available for Mesh that would be available to start in May as well. So if anyone knows anyone who's might be interested, or themselves, I've heard a couple people who are looking for things to do. It's a way to not get paid a lot, but get paid something, and to get a lot of experience and working for a year. Something you put on a resume if you're looking for resume builder too. So definitely ask me questions. I know Brian also is a point of contact for recruiting for AmeriCorps. Matt too, I think. So anyways, if you're interested, let us know. And what I think would be interesting to get people's opinions on is these specific projects, right? So thinking now about like what VISTA is and what AmeriCorps, the program's about, thinking about capacity building and what we can bring to Mesh. Just having started a couple weeks ago, I'm really focusing on this first month, like getting to know the organization, getting to know some of you all, and with an eye towards like kind of like a needs assessment, like how can I be helpful to you all for over the next year? My plan is to sort of develop like some ideas, bring them to the supervisors, like to you all. I guess maybe in the next meeting actually I can present you some like formalized plans projects that then I would with feedback and sort of approval start sort of implementing over the next year. Some ideas that I've been working with Marg, Brian, Matt, Ugo, just sort of kicking things around over the past weeks. Some ideas that have come up, just to give you guys a sense, and I would love to get your thoughts on these ideas and also any ideas that you have. The first one is just sort of like a really sort of a big UX design project. So this is one that Margaret and I were talking about just earlier this week, like just thinking about like from a user experience, like what does it feel like, what does it look like to like engage with Mesh for the first time? Currently it's on like through the Slack, but then it's like through the website. So it's like to really like engage a process to like really think through like how do we, like what does it feel like to be like a new person engaging NYC Mesh, and then and what that all entails and what you go through to like understand things, right? And this would also entail things like how-to videos, thinking through like how can we better use the technological resources to inform people about what they can do, like thinking like an initial site assessment or line of sight assessment. Sorry if I used the wrong words. A line of sight assessment that has to get done before we can really know if it's viable to like engage with this person or in their particular area. How can we utilize like technology and like things to like inform people about how to do that for themselves. So anyway, it's just like a big picture UX design thing. And my role in that, if that were to be something we went forward with, would be just to sort of quarterback it, right? Like to be the person who's sort of like moving the process along. I'm not a UX designer, and I'm sure there's people are who I heard someone earlier say that they would do front-end development. But like it would be just to sort of be the 40 hours a week of administrative work that it would take to like really move something like this through over the course of a year, right? Like at least I think something like this might even be longer than that, but to get that started. And to engage the different pieces of it. Another idea is we're going to be talking, or we have sort of a nascent partnership with Youth Action Youth Build, which is an organization here in Manhattan that works with youth in the city, and they want to talk to us. They do like skill work skills development, project or programs for under-resourced youth, and we're talking with them on Thursday. The idea came up for like a mentorship program. We were thinking about like what kind of programs would be interesting to sort of like pilot with them. They are like life skills focused for their youth. Having them come and learn how to do installs, have like kids in high school like learn how to do installs, learn how to like what Mesh does. Like these are skills that can be applicable once in careers or apprenticeships moving forward if they wanted to go to a more technically minded school or didn't want to go to school at all. Like, you can like use these as skills. So developing a program where there would be focused more on maybe like mentorship as opposed to like, because we also were thinking maybe like internships, but internships maybe doesn't make sense because we're volunteers, right? So like mentorship may be a better way to like think about it. But developing something more formalized like that. Another one that I had is like volunteer coordination. So this goes back also, this is like it's like, when volunteers are engaging with Mesh, like a more formalized onboarding process, a skills database, so understanding in a more formal way, like what skills people have that they want to bring to Mesh. Just because you do something in your private life, your professional life, doesn't mean you want to do it in your like volunteer time. So like, what are the skills that you have that you bring to Mesh? Having like a database of those sorts of skills, and then so that when projects come up and needs arise, we can like query that database and understand better like where the opportunities are. We can match them better. Another one is just like doing more formal PR materials, outreach. People have, different people have raised the idea of like, doing more coordinated work with the press and that sort of thing. That is my background, like more specifically. So I'm happy to do that. But yeah. Any ideas from you guys? I've talked enough, so yeah.
2 mics, 2 extra mics.
There you go. Okay, this is more of a general thought than any specific project, but I think as we've kind of seen through the introductions, we have a lot of people that are really good at highly technical stuff already, and I mean, the churn on that is high enough that it really, like, we don't have any projects that are entirely technical that we couldn't pretty easily deal with. So it feels like, especially with your skill in the, I don't know, to put it nicely, the human side of all of this, that maximizing our capacity, maximizing our understanding our understanding as a group of that side of it and building that up would be a significant asset that we don't really have right now. Thoughts, objections?
Great.
Okay.
Hey, test. I just wanted to second the UX design and like kind of website update idea. Like I totally agree that there's a lot of kind of nuanced details and it takes a long time to do that. And I think we have a lot of good skills, but like no one to really just like champion it over the course of like the months it would take to finish it. So that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think the to that first point, I have a couple thoughts. To that first one, right? I think you may have looked at it. I gave something a couple of months ago similar, and then they really took off on the meshdb, and there's a few other things, and I think we should put our heads together. I dove into it, and I'm just like, this is so much work. Yeah. Like the thought of project managing it sounded like a nightmare. I think from a mentorship program perspective too, and I think you and I talked about this the other day, I think there's a good opportunity as well with for even something like job skills, right? We have a lot of people with a lot of skills in the group, and some people are a year or 2 or 3 years into their career, and some people are more. Some of us are a little bit older and grayer, and I think that there's a good opportunity there, right? So I love doing like resume review with people, right? Or like like college, like people in college, they're like, what does this job mean? And it doesn't even have to be like the mesh, right? We have a ton of people in tech jobs, right? And then as well as, but I think there's actually a broader opportunity here, right? We have the people who show up to these meetings and are consistent volunteers, but I think even in our broader group, there's a lot of people that join the mesh because they sort of believe in the mission, but they don't really get involved, and that's totally fine. But I think this is something that they could kind of connect with, where it's like, look, an hour a month, you know what I mean? Hey, here's an opportunity. NYC Mesh is doing, we're looking to collect people who are interested in spending an hour to a month, advising high school seniors or college juniors about the work that they do. If you're willing to join, send us your resume, let us know what your skills are, and we'll connect you with this person maybe, in a month or two.
Right.
I think that could be really, it's relatively informal.
Yep.
It's sort of like a volunteer database, but very specific to around mentoring, and I think that has so much value.
Yeah.
And people can kind of engage at the level that they want to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I know mentoring gets, there's a lot of people who are looking at social entrepreneurship and that whole concept that gets, and that mentoring and is a huge focus in those realms in that area. So I think, and it's hard to because it is so. I think that mentoring, when it's done really, if it's good and impactful, it's sort of more organic, and it almost has to be kind of a little bit. But ways that you can people can raise their hands, and you can sort of know who's more interested in doing it than others, and so they can provide opportunities for those people to connect who are interested in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to second the interest in creating some sort of mentorship program, especially around sort of, I guess I'd call it community enablement, because there are places in the mesh where our volunteers live, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very easy for somebody to say support a place in Sunset Park because we've got volunteers who live very close to that. But there are areas of New York City where it's hard for us to get to, or it's hard for us to store equipment. And so an idea that I've sort of had kicking around is outreach to groups, to communities, to sort of kickstart a self-sustaining kind of community for that area, right? So working on that and working with people, in, for example, BAM, who came and presented last month, working with them to get some of the Hispano-Homalate community to come work with us and get those skills, and then they can support their own community, and they're right there, so it's way easier. That would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi. You're talking about capacity building.
Yep.
We came up with this new plan for building installs about 6 months ago, and it's really popular. I get one inquiry a week for it, and whenever I talk to the board, they usually approve it. So it's possible for us to do a huge amount of buildings. So if you could help us figure out how to to cope with this, how do we scale up from doing 3 buildings a year to doing 1 a week?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that if this is just my own music. I think one of an organizational. These words sort of become this jumble of soup, and it's what does this all mean? But having a a steering committee or someone or a group that is tasked with or empowered to come up with some plans, or some ideas for what it would look like to have in different scenarios, right? In one scenario might be a more professional hired staff. Another scenario would be to really double down and go with the fully volunteer in a more organized manner. So it's coming up with some of those scenarios and then presenting them to the membership might be a way to go about that. Well, I'll be around. I know there's a big agenda for tonight. Feel free to talk to me, grab me. I'm at Chris McKallagat on the Slack. I'm also Chris at nycmesh.net for emails. Would love to chat with people. I'll be around. I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you're ever in the Mesh area or the Mesh room area, if you're in this area. Just grab me. And also over on the 56th and 11th, if anyone's over there, want to grab coffee, let me know. Cool.
Give me a minute. Just give me-
Obviously, a lot of stuff happens on Slack, but we also do, in case you're not
Let
aware,
me try this.
it's okay. Tuesday nights, every week at this time, like 6:30 usually, we meet across the hall in the Mesh room. It's a more just generic, they used to call it hack night. Now it's just sort of like Mesh night. Just people get together. Sometimes they're coding. Sometimes we're playing with hardware. Sometimes we're just bullshitting and hanging out and having a good time. So if you want to continue to be, like if anybody's got to leave early and you don't get a chance to catch up afterwards, I do encourage you to just come join us on Tuesday nights. It's a lot of fun.
Can you bring like non-mesh projects along?
You can bring anything that you want. It's a choose your own adventure when we meet on Tuesday nights. Sometimes we talk about philosophy and the meaning of life. You know, Daniel usually shows up around 10 and it gets pretty serious. So
Cool. Okay. Hello, folks. Thank you all so much for showing up. To YouTube, hello. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Willard. This is Andrew and Andy, and we are here to demo meshdb. We are very excited for this. This has been in the works for quite a while, and we're hoping to, show it off, sort of explain the problem that it solves, give you a tour of what we've built so far, and try to kickstart the conversation about this solution replacing the new node spreadsheet. So first of all, what is meshdb? Briefly, it's a system for storing and accessing our sort of member and node information. It's a database, and we've got an API built as well that enables powerful integrations, robots, and user interfaces. We have spent a long time on this. You can see on the right there our sort of landing page and our actual admin portal UI that we will talk about in a moment. But first,
yeah, so I guess we should really back up a little bit and start with why did we build this in the first place? Why was this a necessary project? And to really answer that question, we have to talk about how does the Mesh store data today? So when you joined the Mesh, you filled out a Google form that collected your information, and it dumped it into this spreadsheet here, right? And this spreadsheet is, it's a Google sheet, and it has 15,000 rows in it. And as you can imagine, Google Sheets wasn't really designed for spreadsheets with 50,000 rows in them. I mean, it works technically, but it has some drawbacks. I mean, it has not really scaled with us as we've scaled in terms of an organization, in terms of the number of rows, in terms of the number of people that need access to this, right? So one problem is that access control is very much an all or nothing thing. So like either you have access to every single row or you have access to nothing. And so it requires a level of trust there where like if a volunteer shows up on their first day and has an idea for a project, like we can't give them access to all of the data for everyone in the Mesh. We have like a duty to protect the personal information of the people in the Mesh that we have to respect there. But then on the other side, right, it's a high barrier of entry for new volunteers, right, to tell them like, hey, yeah, go do a couple of installs and then we'll let you have access to the data like that. It's not a great interaction with that, sort of the new volunteer community. It obviously, interacting with a 15,000 row spreadsheet, it's got a clunky interface for that. Searching is really difficult. When you search for a network number, you will often find those characters of the network number in like randomly in the latitude longitude coordinates, and so you're like clicking it's just like it's really not meant for this, right? There's no data validation, so like there have been problems where like a volunteer will edit something and that will accidentally break some automated system that depends on that data being in a certain format. It's difficult to audit and track changes, right? So like Google Sheets technically has a track changes feature, but it doesn't really work for spreadsheets of this scale. You can't really see what actually changed. All of this is to say, there's been a bunch of great work that we've done as an org that like builds on top of this, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. Like this actually powers a whole bunch of things through the AppScript API, but it's very brittle and it's very slow and it has a lot of drawbacks. And hopefully that's pretty clear just from a human side and also from an automated tooling side. It's very difficult to work with the API that AppScript exposes. So how does meshdb improve things? So what we've done is we've rebuilt from the ground up like a database system based on Django, which is a popular ORM framework. Basically, it sits on top of the database and handles a lot of other things for us. It's got a very big plugin ecosystem. And so this gives us a robust API for machines to use, and also granular access control. We get change logs out of the box for free. We can do a nice automated, or we can generate with relatively little config, we can generate an administrator UI that interacts with the data. And things like API documentation, there's so much that it gives us. But yeah, this is the idea, is like moving to a database which is meant to handle these sorts of volumes of data, and it will do things like data validation for us, right?
Cool. So these are some tools that are existing and currently used for accessing the data. So we have the query form, and it works pretty well. You can get some good data out of it, but it takes kind of a long time to run. You can see it's not formatted maybe as well as you'd want. Here we have the network number form, and it's kind of a similar situation. It takes a long time because it's going through every single row in the spreadsheet, and it's also kind of difficult to update. Tends to break sometimes. And then here's the join form, which also works pretty well, but it doesn't do quite as much data validation as you'd want. So sometimes we end up with people outside the region where we're servicing, and then we have to go through those. Yeah, so this is the kind of updated version of those interfaces. It's basically the same thing you know and love, but just with some slight tweaks and a lot of back-end improvements that make it easier to maintain and more reliable.
And finally, last but not least, this is sort of the admin UI that we've built. This is really cool because we chose Django for this project, and with Django, you pretty much get a lot of this for free. In just like a couple hundred lines of code, we have this super nice, very quick sort of user interface. We've got like filtering, we've got searching. Everything sort of like links to each other. So like, you go to any given building, you can see the list of installs, you can see the list of devices, you can see what that building links to. You can see the members who like live there or who have hardware running there. We've also got this really nice integration with the existing map. So you can click around on the map and then the UI will update, so you can sort of navigate that way, or you can navigate using our like sort of built-in filtering functions. So it's very flexible and is very fast.
Okay, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what took us so long, right? Like why we've been working on this for a while, and it turns out there are a whole lot of things that this org has built that pull from the spreadsheet, right? And so you can see every single box on this page, well, with the exception of meshdb, I guess, is something that exists today and is using the spreadsheet data, right? And so when we're thinking about replacing the spreadsheet, we also have to think about how are we going to manage all of these other workflows, to make sure we don't want to take everything else offline just to get a better search interface, right? So we had to work systematically through each one of these integrations and make sure that we can either support it or replace it with something that does the same thing. So we worked through everything from the website map to support bot, which is an automated diagnostics bot that Andy and I worked on a while ago, to being able to send information to OS ticket, which is how we track installs that are upcoming. And then, as Andy talked about, the new join form and the new query form as well. We get information, we accept queries, those sorts of things. It was a really big deal for us not to break anybody's existing workflow. We're really trying to make sure that we can make this migration, and everybody that can do something with spreadsheet data can still do it. And I don't think we're 100% there yet, but we're very well on our way. And I think we have with a little bit more time, we can clean up some of these remaining use cases.
So I guess with that, we'll show off a little bit of what we've built and show you that for the most part, everything we just mentioned, we have actually managed to successfully integrate into meshdb. So I'm going to go ahead and
forgive us if there are some wrinkles in the demo. We had a laptop crash moments ago.
We're chilling though. So let's see. So let's start over here at meshdb admin. So first of all, backing up just a little bit, if you go into sort of our base URL, you'll get this very nice landing page that I mentioned with links to some of our tools and stuff that we've built. This is just sort of a home page that we have put together just to make it easier to sort of introduce and then navigate. This is running in Django. We go to the admin panel, which is sort of the really like sort of cool thing. This is the view that you're presented with. So you've got, if you're an admin like I am, you've got all of your sort of devices and objects over here. You've got this nice adjustable sort of map view, and then you can go into like say the installs. Look at any given install. Let's look at this one that's like actually got a network number, and it will zoom in and show you where that is. And you can see where it links to. You can click on another one, and it will navigate to that one. And you can sort of see all of the other objects that relate to it. And you notice that you can do this like pretty quickly. You can go ahead and you can go to like this given device, and you can see like, okay, we've got a device here. It was installed in 2021. You can type up notes. You can save things. If you go to like a building, this is pretty cool. Let me search for 713. Let's see. We've got our Supernode 3 over here. Let's go click on that. So it will zoom in on Supernode 3, and you can see Supernode 3's got quite a bit going on. You've also got notes and latitude, longitude, your NYC building identification number, if you need that, that's right there. And yeah, you can also go ahead and
Show Vernon.
yeah, let's go to Vernon. Vernon's a fun one.
303 Vernon out. Yeah.
Let's see if that works. There it is. Click on that.
And so Vernon's one of our hub sites in Brooklyn that's very central to the mesh. So it has dozens of sort of links coming in.
Quite a few.
Yeah. So you go to the node.
Yeah, right here. There we go. And you can see, yeah. there's
So
a couple
it's
things.
plenty of devices, plenty of links, right? And you can see, yeah, all of these are clickable, right? So you
Yeah.
can go to,
That
go to
LP.
see where else on the mesh somebody who's connected to
Whoa. Yeah.
Vernon is.
And then so you got this very nice interface that sort of tries to like link all of that spreadsheet data together in like a way that is coherent and lets you follow it. And then you've got the searching, you've got the filtering, which is all I think very cool. So the next thing I guess to show off is the join form, which I need to pull up real quick. So this is the new join form. We've
Do the prod one.
the prod one. Oh yes, sorry. We do have this running in prod. I have a local copy that's got like scrubbed like names and addresses or names, phone numbers, etc., just to protect people's PII. But we're just going to create like an entry so we can use prod for this. So we kept the form pretty simple. It's just like mostly the same as it was before, but we've got a ton of validation. We also have this very nice like sort of front end. It's written in TypeScript and it's hackable, so we can add different forms. We can add special forms for like Grand Street Guild, right? If we want to direct people to a different form, a different workflow, we can now do that, which is pretty cool.
Internationalization as well, right?
Internationalization
The same
is another
form,
thing,
but
yeah.
whatever language your browser is set to, it shows you that language.
So let's just go ahead and like type something in. I'm making this up as I go, except this is my personal phone number. Yeah, give me a call. You won't reach me because I got rid of this phone number 10 years ago.
Sorry to bother you guys. Yeah, so just lock up. Of course you want.
Brian, yes. Brian, for a quick minute?
No, sorry. Can you speak to Daniel?
He's not here, so.
Sorry, I already passed the message
Okay. So yeah, let's grab an address 838 Myrtle Ave. Why not? Unit 18. I don't know. Maybe there's 18 units in that building. Who knows? Brooklyn, New York. What's the zip code of this one? 1206. Cool. Yeah. We have roof access. Sure. Googled it. And you got to agree to the Network Commons license. There's a link right here, in case you're curious. Submit that. And there you go. It says, thanks, you'll receive an email shortly. And the cool thing about this is that you can hit up the
Yeah, so yeah, well, we'll explain that up.
Yeah.
In the current Slack, there's a private channel. It's private because it has like addresses in it. There's a private channel that gets a notification every time somebody joins the mesh or like fills out the join form. So we've replicated that. And so, and also, of course, we need to create an OS ticket.
Yeah,
right.
So create an OS ticket for you. And then the join requests, it'll show up in here as well automatically. And then, yeah, you can send the user, you know, you can't reply and all that jazz. It's the same flow. It's just done with meshdb now. And also, it doesn't let them submit again. If they click the button a million times, it won't work. Very good. We also do some deduplication on like email address and stuff like that. So like if you are the same person with the same email at the same building in the same unit, we'll just be like, okay, hold on, bud, you already have
We got it. You know.
an install. Yeah, which is very cool.
That's great.
Yeah, so let's see what else. There's also the query form, which we're gonna swap back to this guy over here. Let's see. So query form is just like the query form in the current rendition, only it's a little faster. Let's say so. 1932. Let's do Grand Street, and then this one. Oops, authentication. Oh yeah, this is prod. Sorry.
Wait, don't do this. Don't do this.
Huh?
You need
Oh,
to
sorry.
that, yeah.
Wait, my bad. my bad.
We want to make sure we don't leak everybody's information.
It's very confusing juggling all this. Authentication failed. Oh, I'm sorry. Bro.
It keeps going to because they're
Because the
Yeah,
link
the
isn't
links- the
in,
links are
okay,
not
my bad.
relative, yeah.
Yep, there we go. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, we're here now. We made it.
The production version works great.
yeah.
The production version works great. So there we go.
There we go.
Okay, so can anybody guess how long this query might take to query Grand Street in the old form?
30 seconds.
I lost count. It didn't, like I alt-tabbed away. 30 minutes later, I glanced at it and it was done. But like, I waited a long time, dude. But it's just like that.
And it served us really well for a long time. Yeah, I want to make sure, right? Like, we're trying to to grow and improve. Like what we have has worked really well, right? We're just like it's time to grow a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
And if you need the legacy format for like copying and pasting or whatever, you can get that, and it will just give you the same thing in like basically the exact same format as the old query form, if you need that. And since it's all a single page, like you can do multiple queries and whatever, if you want to query 1932 and then this one or I don't know someone else. But yeah, that's the query form. And then if you have an install that you have created and it's time to actually install them, you can go to the NN assign form and you can do that. So let me go look for the, let's see. That one, that's the one. What was this install number?
That one won't be in here because that was in prod.
Join request. Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
My bad.
Just go to the.
Yeah, I'm just
to
gonna
your
go find a
local
random one.
Yeah.
In the admin panel, installs, and go to say, I don't know, this one. This one looks pretty good. 14878. Sure. There we go. Like that. Network number 179. Refresh, and it should have an NN. There it is. Boom. You go to this one. And hey, look, there's that install. And it was done today. Amazing. So yeah, that's the query form. That's the assign form. Let's see. There's also the map and line of sight tools that we built. These ones are basically just the same map and line of sight tool that you know and love, just backed with meshdb. So they are located at map.grandsvc.mesh.nycmesh.net. The short one also works. grandsvc.mesh works too. So this is our map. We load in real time the the payload from the API. So like if somebody does an install or joins or makes a network number, makes a link, changes anything in the database, really, it shows up here instantly, which is pretty sick. And this is just the same map. It's just backed by meshdb. And then there's the line of sight tool, which is los.grandsvc.blah, blah, blah. You can use the .mesh if you want, if you have the period. There it is. We don't have TLS on here.
Yeah, this one doesn't have TLS.
This one doesn't have TLS. That's so funny. And Chrome is mad at me about that. But this one does. I use Let's Encrypt. We have automated cert renewal, which is very good. So let's do Myrtle Ave here.
Yeah, and this is pulled live from meshdb. So this address on the are you on the right Wi-Fi?
Am I on the right Wi-Fi? Let's find
You
out.
gotta be on the mesh.
Oh, I'm not. Oops.
Yeah.
My bad. Try this again. Hello, sir. Please connect. Thank you.
Yeah.
There we go.
So yeah, and this is one where the current line of sight tool is out of date, but since we pull live, we've got Vernon here, and so we've got the correct line of sight.
Yes. So we're hoping that will be useful for you folks. Let's see. I guess the next thing to cover is our API, which, if I were to do this, so we've got an API. That's a dev token. You can try to hack me. It won't work. But yeah, we have a full REST API, and you can indeed query member information, build information, node information, whatever you need. And then there it is, right there. And this is every member. Do you see how fast that was? That was crazy. I just love how fast it is. That's my favorite feature. But you can get nodes, and yeah, you can do it on the terminal, and you can use it, in programs. We can get you, authentication tokens. We can create you an account. We can give you whatever permissions you might need or might not need, and then you can just start hacking, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, I guess the final thing I'll mention is that meshdb is open source. We use an MIT license. And we want developers. If you would like to contribute to this project, please. That would be awesome. We have built a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff to build still. There's a lot of really cool tools that we want to build that need to be integrated with this. If you saw something in this demo that you liked, or you saw something you didn't see something and you would like, you can let us know. You can build it yourself. You can open a PR, whatever you want. Please join us and make this as best as it can be. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple more slides.
We got a few more slides
That's
here.
very final.
Sorry. Okay, back to the slideshow.
Okay, yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you just want to highlight, we got a relatively simple architecture here. We've got a Postgres backend, Django as the application layer, and we've got Nginx doing web stuff. And basically that's it. Everything happens through JSON APIs that are exposed by Nginx, and Django handles all the sort of business logic for us.
Cool. And then just displaying some potential applications that this will unlock, mostly with the API that Willard mentioned. There's a lot of different permissions you can set. And then also there's webhooks, which allow you to basically subscribe to updates when something happens. So we have this onboarding workflow. I know Chris and Mark have been working on kind of tailoring the onboarding workflow depending on your location, your language, et cetera. Data sharing and collaboration with our partners. For example, if someone speaks Spanish and they're in a local community, they could potentially query our database. Targeted email notifications, like if you have an RDIG, you can pull that data in. Automated link import from OSPF to kind of ground truth the database against what we actually observe. Frequency planning, so this is a project that some interns were working on to map different data, and we can give them different permissions so they can't see everything, just what they need. And yeah, anything else you can imagine.
So as I mentioned, meshdb is open source. We've got these two repos here. Meshdb is our backend, it's our Django, it's our database. Mesh Forms is the TypeScript application that we've been building. Please come hang out, come work with us. We've already had a couple of pull requests opened since the announcement on, when was that, Sunday? Sunday. Yeah, and huge thanks for that. Keep them coming, very excited.
Yeah, and I wanted to close this out a little bit with just sort of what we're thinking in terms of timeline. I mean, this is all flexible. We don't want to rush this if things don't work out, but here's sort of what we're thinking. So, on Sunday we announced on Slack the project. The beta's live. Today we're doing a presentation. Over the next sort of month or so, we're hoping to collect feedback since the beta is live, so folks can let us know what they think. We're going to continue working on some last-minute feature requests and some bug fixes as they come up. We are pretty thin on documentation right now, so we want to spend some time doing that in terms of user-facing things, developer-facing things, those sorts of docs. We'll give you an update next month at the org meeting, and hopefully by that point we'll be in a much better position to be very seriously talking about deprecating the spreadsheet and switching over to the new join form. Like I said, we're not going to rush this. If there's stuff that we're going to break by doing this, we'll wait. But if we're ready, we want to go. We think this is very valuable, and we should get this in people's hands as soon as we can.
Yeah. Please join the conversation. Here, obviously, and then on Slack at #meshdb. We've got a channel. Let's get some conversation going about this.
I also want to give a big shout out, big thank you to everybody that helped us along the way. We got some folks from the dev team up here. Quincy couldn't make it, but yeah, Marg, Olivier, Leiden, and John, and so many others have been helpful along the way, giving us feedback and guidance. We couldn't have done it without y'all. We've given you a send-off many times here, but it's live on board. It's ready to go. We got some improvements planned, and we're planning to go by late April if all goes well.
Okay, for real. Q&A. Anybody got any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, actually, we should. We gotta hand out the mic.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a couple of questions. I know this discussion was already on Slack about hosting. Are the decision was made or still to be announced?
Still in progress. So today this is hosted in the building across the street here. We've had some infrastructural challenges there, and so a more robust something infrastructurally, I think, would be good. We should start a thread on that. We're not there yet.
All right, now the bugs and feature requests, would you like this to be on Slack, or you prefer this to be on the Git, or is there some kind of connection between Git and Slack where
I am the connection between the GitHub and the Slack.
If you want to open an issue on GitHub, that's much appreciated. If you want to start a thread on Slack, do so, and then we can,
Really, it probably should be in both places, right? Slack for the discussion and GitHub for the tracking. So if you make one in one place, we'll probably add the other. Yeah.
All right, and last question, because I didn't get that part. So all the rendering is through Django, or there's some kind of like a JavaScript framework on top of it, or like a React or something?
So the API is Django. We have very little that's actually rendered in Django itself. The admin panel is in Django. That landing page was in Django. But Mesh Forms is a fully separate TypeScript project that just queries the API.
Thank you.
Anybody else? See question?
First of all, thank you very much. This is amazing. So useful. I think just, first of all, also really, really good and an important move for the organization to have the permissions control on the data in the spreadsheet. And I think that's probably a whole conversation that maybe is already happening. I haven't been in the Slack channel, but definitely figuring out how to handle that and coming up with a robust system of who needs what at what point and how you can, parse those out. But a question I had about the map being updated is also amazing. And is the link data being pulled from somewhere, or how's the link data work?
Yeah, so right now we have two sources of link data. We pull from the spreadsheet itself. And we also got UISP working. That's sort of, still a work in progress, but like, yeah, if there's a light beam connected to a sector in UISP, we show it as a link on the map. So that is missing some links, right? So like WDS links between omnis doesn't come in that way. And that's definitely a future improvement we could make. But UISP was a relatively low lift to get, just because the data is much easier to get centralized and well formatted.
That's amazing. That is like really, super useful.
Hi. I'm most concerned about workflow. I wasn't joking when I said we've been working on this for 10 years. The first conversation with Oliver, I think, was about moving to a database from the spreadsheet. And Olivier does a huge amount of work, and you've been talking to him?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking to him last night, actually. I was fixing things on mesh forms with him.
And I don't think he's fully satisfied yet, but I think, given in a month, we'll be much, much closer to that.
Okay, yeah. If there's one person I would like to keep happy, it's Olivier.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna jump on what was said before too. So absolutely awesome. Love that the ability that this unlocks for the map. One thing that I've always thought was missing from the map was something live, like outages and showing real-time links. Maybe like something super cool, like what Unify is showing today, where you can see the data being streamed. And I think that would be an awesome wow factor that would attract people to Mesh for the fact of like, look how this network works. It would be a great visualization tool for it. So whenever in the future, all those plugins show up, that's one that I'm definitely be waiting for.
Yeah, definitely. That's like kind of the idea with this is that like, in, sort of the coming like probably months at least, to be realistic, like we would like to, that like this is, meshdb sort of enables those kinds of projects, right? Like we can start looking at, okay, seriously, like how can we like overhaul our sort of maps and our visualizations? We can pull the data into like an outage detector and do like sort of mass notifications of like, hey, SM3 is down. If this affects, this person, send them a text, send them an email. That kind of stuff is now possible because we have this API. So, for sure, like we can get conversations going about that. And if somebody wants to own that, that would be pretty sick. I've written so much Python, so much. But yeah.
And that will also keep Olivier happy and not having to message him every time we want to move a link on the map.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It feels like we could greatly benefit by hanging more fundamental things off of this database. So, for example, we know where all our equipment is, what it's connected to. If there's, I don't know, a weird power adapter that only works when you press it 3 times, we can note that in the documentation and just have a record of where all the things are moving and kind of have it act as a resource planner for the entire IT end of the organization.
Are we tracking the assets over there in it right now or not?
No, nothing like this is anything
Deployed is tracked here. I don't want to increase our scope any more than we have to get the spreadsheet to die. Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, absolutely. I think you're right. Like keeping track of notes is good.
No, but I think that's an amazing. Like I've been poking around it for a couple of weeks, and at first glance, it's just incredibly useful because it ties 2 or 3 different, I think, core systems together, like namely the map, UISP, and the join form, right? And that spreadsheet, which is just immediately valuable, especially if you're on a phone and you're older than 26. I can't do it. I can't, right? So even just the other day, I was just looking up on my phone while I was on a train, and I was like, this is amazing, right? But I think that, like, when you mention asset management, long-term goal, great, track all the crap in the mesh room, but in the short term, I think it's just amazing that it shows all of that. Like you're pulling the UISP stats, which as long as we're maintaining that, like that's amazing that you can look it up. Because right now you got to go to the Omni and kind of like it, which is a fun little project sometimes at midnight when you can't sleep, of little detective work of bouncing around. But I've been like, sometimes I stay up late at night just looking at the map and then looking at the link sheet and fixing things because I'm just like, this isn't right. What's going on? Right. So I think it's really, all of these improvements are really, really amazing because it allows us to focus on the stuff that we want to do and not so much all of the back end, let's call it administrative work. It's tough. It's like at this scale, it's really, really hard to keep this thing well maintained without some level of automation. So I really appreciate it. I think the work that was put in before, that is an incredible Google Sheet, by the way. The formulas in that thing are like, I'm going to go teach a business school course with that because it's really, really amazing. But this is just, V2 is amazing. So really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any other comments?
All right. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys.